Newsline, live from the RMIT studios. Hello and welcome to Newsline. I'm Naya Barnes.
And I'm Killy Forbes.
Today we'll be touching on the latest news around Australia and the world, including the culture on Chapel Street, pokies machines in Brimbank and music in Durban.
And afterwards we'll have updates from sport and the weather. But first, today's news.
Earlier this morning, protesters gathered outside the public housing towers at 33 Alfred Street, North Melbourne, as they successfully warned off construction workers for the second day in a row. The demolition of the towers has faced backlash from residents, the local community, as well as the Victorian Greens Party.
Were planning to send demolition crews in high-vis and hazmat suits to start the interior demolition of some of the vacant buildings here at 33 Alfred Street. There are still people living in this building.
So what do we do? Stand up, fight back! So what do we do? Stand up, fight back! Thanks to Archibald McGill for that story.
One person has died following a fierce apartment fire in Melbourne's eastern suburbs on Monday evening. Emergency services were called to Bishop Street in Box Hill after the blaze broke out around 8 p.m. last night. Crews arrived in the second-storey apartment within minutes to find the unit engulfed in fire, with flames visible from the neighbouring apartments. All other residents of the building were safely evacuated, and the fire was brought under control shortly after.
A 51-year-old man is in critical condition after being involved in a collision with an e-scooter at the Murray and King Street intersection in Perth. Perth police alleged a 24-year-old woman, Alice Kemp, was riding the scooter with a passenger on Saturday night. Ms Kemp is due to reappear in the Perth Magistrates Court today. While Perth's e-rideable laws are similar to Victoria's, e-scooters are still allowed to travel on footpaths in Perth as long as they do not exceed the 10km/hour limit.
Sicily's Mount Etna erupted yesterday, sending plumes of ash and volcanic rock several kilometres into the Italian countryside. The dramatic eruption triggered panic among tourists, many of whom were seen fleeing the area to safety. Footage captured by visitors shows volcanic material pouring from the crater, with lava and clouds of ash filling the sky. Despite the intensity of the eruption, the full extent of its impact remains unclear. Flights to and from Sicily's airports are operating as normal, and authorities have not reported any injuries or significant damage. Emergency services remain on alert as they continue to assess the situation.
The Australian minimum wage is set to increase by 3.5% from the 1st of July this year, following the Fair Work Commission's annual review. This decision will increase the national minimum wage to $24.95 per hour or $948 per week for a full-time employee. While the Albanese government called for the independent arbitrator to provide an increase above inflation, currently at 2.4%, the Australian Council of Trade Unions was lobbying for a much higher boost of 4.5%. Last financial year, the minimum wage and awards were increased by 3.75%.
Brimbank Council in Melbourne's West has had a consistent issue with the use of pokies machines, leading the state into an overall electronic gaming machine losses. With the government aware of the problem at hand, what is being done to help vulnerable and susceptible individuals in the area to the harm that consistent pokie machine usage can cause? Zara Toomey has more.
Bright, colourful and dangerous. The enticing gambling outlet of poker machines have taken up a host in the western Melbourne area of Brimbank, unleashing relenting harm on its residents. Taking the title for the most gambling losses in the state for over a decade, one of the most disadvantaged areas in Melbourne is in dire need of assistance.
We have to sort of respect adult autonomy, but at the same time try and protect people who might make bad decisions that can hurt themselves.
Brimbank, consisting of 25 suburbs and 15 pokies venues, is the only area in Victoria to reach 100% of gaming machine allowance, with 953 pokies machines currently present in the area. There has been over $170 million spent on poker machines in the past year, with $500,000 being lost each day in Brimbank. The Brimbank Council's electronic gaming policy, implemented in 2019, is seen to have had little to no impact in the overall pokies usage in the area, with the post-COVID era prompting the biggest spike in pokies losses ever recorded. Now, 4 years down the track, the local government area is still to let go of the unenviable title, with the consequences of such high pokies use coming to a head. However, solutions are available, not only to the area of Brimbank, but to venues all across Victoria, through opting to not operate poker machines. Melbourne pub The Emerald, located in South Melbourne, has chosen not to house poker machines due to the risks that they pose to patrons. Hotel manager at The Emerald, Andrew Lewis, explains why.
We thrive on the fact that we don't have pokies. We thrive on the fact that our clientele would detest us, actually, we had pokies. But if I walked in some of these venues that have pokies and turned them off with the switchboard, they'd struggle in business because they've lost the sight of the big picture, which is hospitality.
With lots of steps still to be taken in the Brimbank area, the promotion of setting limits and the pursuit of large-scale change from government will save this area from being plunged into further loss. Sarah Toomey, RMIT News.
2.6 million Australians currently working on the minimum wage will receive a 3.4% increase from July 1. Reporter William Pasqua joins us from the Victorian Trades Hall. So William, what did the Fair Work Commission say about their decision?
Hi all. The Fair Work Commission said that with inflation falling between the Reserve Bank's target of between 2 and 3%, now is the time to start reversing the decline in real wages caused by inflation. They said that if they did not take this opportunity to act, there was a risk that the decline in real wages caused by inflation could become entrenched in current pay rates. They also said that there was a risk that the reduction in the standards of living of people on the minimum wage could also be entrenched. They cited several factors that influenced their decision, including trade uncertainty, the superannuation guarantee rate increase on July 1, and the performance of the food sector as well.
So with this rise in pay, how big of a change is this really?
If you look at the rises in the minimum wage in isolation, it doesn't seem like a lot. Last year, the minimum wage was increased by 3.75%, bringing it to its current rate of $24.10. However, since the election of the Albanese government in 2022, the minimum wage has been increased by $143.
Okay, and while people are struggling to keep up with growing costs of necessities, how does this announcement align with expectations?
The expert panel of the Fair Work Commission has towed the line between a diverse range of calls from a wide range of organisations and entities. In April, the Albanese government made a submission to the expert panel calling for an increase to the minimum wage, but they did not specify what figure. The Australian Trade Council called for an increase of 4.5%. On the other hand, the Australian Restaurant and Cafe Organisation called for an increase of 2%. They said that an increase of this amount was a balance between the sustainability of businesses and the livelihoods of employees.
So, William, you spoke with some of the students about the pay rise, and what did they have to say?
Yes, earlier this morning I was out around RMIT talking with students and people about the minimum wage increase. Many of them were happy to hear about the news. Many of them are feeling the effects of inflation.
I live alone, right? So I obviously have to do the groceries myself and everything. It's getting expensive now. Coming with I know this is much labour, haircuts and all that as well, is so much inflation. So increasing the minimum wage helps other people.
Renting with 3 other roommates, and we have just a little bit more than enough to get by, maybe $100 extra a week.
And what is next for Aussie workers?
Well, as I previously mentioned, on the 1st of July this year, the superannuation guarantee will also increase. It will be increased from 11.5% to 12%. This means that employers will be required to contribute 12% of an employee's wage to their nominated super fund.
Thank you, William. That was William Pasqua reporting live from Victoria's Trade Hall.
After the break, we'll be bringing you international news with Yvette Campitelli-Slee.
Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Killy Forbes.
And I'm Naya Barnes.
We'll now take our attention to international news with Yvette Campitelli-Slee.
Thank you, Keely. To our lead international story, where peace talks between Russia and Ukraine concluded after just an hour of discussion. Turkish authorities mediated talks that resulted in a prisoner swap between the two sides. The bodies of 12,000 soldiers will also be returned to their respective countries. Ukraine says Russia again rejected a ceasefire. Russian media reports they put forward demands including a Ukrainian military withdrawal from annexed territory. Negotiations followed Ukraine's devastating attack on Russian air bases over the weekend. Across Europe, leaders are hoping for a quick end to fighting as the war continues into its third year. Ukraine have proposed another round of talks before the end of June. UN Secretary Antonio Guterres called for an independent investigation into the mass shooting of Palestinians at a Gaza food distribution centre on Sunday. The Red Cross reported 179 wounded and 21 deaths. The Hamas-run Civil Defense Agency put the death toll at 31. The Israeli Defense Force has denied that its troops fired at civilians and said the reports were fake. Guterres said in a statement on Monday, "I call for an immediate and independent investigation into these events and for the perpetrators to be held accountable." Police have launched a fresh investigation into the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Portuguese and German authorities will search the municipality of Lagos, where the British child went missing on holiday almost 2 decades ago. German authorities took over from the case from Portuguese authorities after identifying Christian Brucker as their prime suspect. Bruckner is a convicted rapist and child sex offender and is currently in a German prison, but he has not yet been formally charged in relation to the high-profile McCann case. The execution of search warrants will be the focus for authorities during the 4-day investigation that began yesterday. Conservative presidential candidate Karol Nawrocki has won Poland's election. Exit polling did say that Nawrocki from the nationalist opposition would clinch victory, but the result has finalised earlier today. Securing just over 50% of the vote, the new president is expected to disrupt the centrist pro-EU government's political agenda. Nawrocki posted to X following the win, saying, "You can be sure that as the head of state, I will not let go of any of the issues that are important to Poland and Poles." But the result may weaken Poland's influence in the EU. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has labelled the recent judicial elections a complete success, despite just 13% of the population casting their vote. Mexico is now the only country in the world to vote for all of their judges, including members of the Supreme Court. The unprecedented move was put forward by the governing Morena party last year, before Sheinbaum was elected. The aim was to reduce corruption by aligning magistrates with public opinion. But it has caused some backlash, with some labelling it as an attack on the separation of powers. The Morena party hold both the presidency and the legislative majority, and there have been reports that party members were vetting judicial candidates. Confusion, controversy, and other local elections happening simultaneously have been blamed for the low voter turnout.
So, as you've said, Yvette, Mexico is now the only country in the world to hold judicial elections and vote for magistrates. What was the reasoning behind this historic move?
So Mexico's president has said the country's been struggling with corruption for a long time. To varying degrees, organised crime and cartels have influenced politics. Most recently was the presidential election last year, which was the most violent presidential campaign in the country's history. 37 candidates were assassinated, and also the Human Rights Watch reports that only 16% of crimes go resolved in Mexico. So the public have lost faith a little bit in institutions like the government and law enforcement. So this move was really a push to reinstate that faith in legislative authorities.
So can you tell us a bit more about how the Mexican people are feeling about this whole situation?
Yeah, so despite the low voter turnout, actually 65% of Mexicans said that they support the elections and that they could increase legitimacy for the judiciary. But it was one of those things where the protest, you can't really deny them. There was a lot of controversy surrounding whether the Morena party were trying to take total control of the legislative power in Mexico, which was a big point of contention.
And what precedent do these judicial elections set for other nations around the world?
So at the centre of democratic ideology often sits the separation of powers. So the executive, the parliament, and also the judiciary are separate and they don't influence each other. They're not all owned by the same person or group either. So the fact that the Morena Party runs the judiciary now, because they were putting forward some of the candidates and vetting people, as well as maintaining their presidency and the parliament, that was a really big concern for people. But that being said, one of the main criticisms of the judiciary is that members are appointed, they're not elected. And members often tend to be from more advantaged backgrounds, they often tend to be men. So if we do actually open up the judiciary to elections, it could be more representative, which in itself is very radical.
So building upon that, when can these new judges be appointed?
So all the judges will be appointed on September 1. That includes those in the Supreme Court. But I'm sure that the weight of this change will be felt long before then.
Thank you for your time, Yvette. That's the international news for today.
Chapel Street in Melbourne's inner suburbs has been an iconic hub of activity, nightlife and shopping for more than half a century. However, recent unsavoury activity has sourced its once great reputation. Sienna Seychelles has more.
Chapel Street's nightlife is a quintessential part of Melbourne's identity. This iconic street once symbolised fun and freedom, but now carries a darker reputation. Dr. Mike Callender, a regular Friday night DJ at Revolver nightclub, has observed a noticeable change in patron behaviour.
I used to walk into my gigs in the middle of the night before, and I don't necessarily now, because you kind of think twice about, is it rougher? Maybe I should just get an Uber straight to the door. I would be terrified if my wife was walking into those situations at the times of night when I am.
With 2 recent stabbings, rising thefts and a police shortage, Chapel Street businesses are on edge. As foot traffic declines, the precinct's vacancy rate has climbed to 11%. Rachel Westaway, member for Paran, has more to say.
In terms of police presence, there has been a lack of police presence, and that is because even at Paran Police Station, our largest police station that looks after this area, we are 40 head count down in regards to police.
A 2022 road safety survey conducted by the Stonington Council found a high level of concern about the safety of trams in the area. Chapel Street was identified as a street where people felt the least safe.
There is a reason why people aren't going into shops. There's a lot of tobacco shops. There is the tobacco wars going on, so we've seen fire bombings of some of our traders. The seat of Paran has 3 times the increase in crime that other seats have experienced, and so that's been something that's really, really important that I need to address.
But change is coming. As of July 1st, a $2 million plan to transform Chapel Street will begin. This will bring more police presence and safety to the community. Sienna Seychelles, Newsline.
And now we're going to have a short break. We'll be back momentarily with more news from around Victoria.
Welcome back to Newsline. I'm Killy Forbes.
And I'm Naya Barnes.
Young people are facing a lot of economic challenges in the world today, and some have turned to gambling. But how much do young people themselves know about gambling and its risks? RMIT journalism student Harrison Cathnes spoke with RMIT students to find out more.
Teenagers are losing big. Almost a third of underage teenagers and almost half of young adults in Australia gamble, according to a new report from the Australia Institute. I'm here at RMIT to find out what students think of Australia's world-leading gambling losses. What do you think is the total amount in dollars that all Australian teenagers spend on gambling annually?
Teenagers, I'd say, what, a few million?
Maybe like 15,000? Is that too much?
The amount is quite high.
I think it's got to be a lot because gambling now is so easy to do because you can do it on your phone, you can do it at the casino, you can do it at home, on your laptop, everywhere.
It's $231 million.
It's a big number, definitely more than I expected.
It's crazy, that's a lot of money. I didn't expect it. I thought you were about to say like 10,000.
Wow, that's a crazy number. I didn't know many teenagers had that much money to gamble.
What are your thoughts on a gambling ad ban?
Gambling ads, yes, 100%, because why would you want to advertise something that's just going to make people poorer and make people more addicted to doing something they don't want to do?
I don't think there are too many out there, to be honest. But yeah, it's good to not get media to get people into it in the first place.
Don't want to say no, don't want to say yes. Because at the end of the day, it's that person's responsibility.
Banning it would definitely, I think, it would help a lot of young people that I know are struggling with it.
Zooming out from Melbourne, we're headed to Durban, South Africa. Despite high poverty and crime rates, Durban is the proud birthplace of a popular dance music genre. Archibald McGill has more.
On the streets of Durban, South Africa, you can't avoid the rhythmic bass lines of porn, the iconic dance music genre birthed in the townships of the coastal city. Usually blaring out of a taxi cab or club, I spoke to local producer DJ Volcano about the challenges faced by artists.
So this is Durban, Clermont, where film was made and actually rebirthed. I mean, of course, you can't actually find things sources, so you actually get tired, and the environment, this environment is not okay. This environment is not okay. You grow in bad situations, they don't support financially, so you actually give up. So it takes a lot of courage to even think you're gonna just continue doing without no support, no money.
Even with one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the world, constant power cuts and high crime rates, it doesn't stop artists from doing what they love. This sentiment is shared by On Collective Unanticipated Sounds, who I spoke to at their home, which doubles as their recording studio.
Some they are bad, there's jealousy out there. Black people, sometimes they don't want to see another black people succeeding. Able to do what we enjoy for a living.
We even release on Bandcamp and Details. They're getting like all over the world, they're getting our music.
One of the members' younger sister, Aquana, explained how popular the music is amongst her classmates.
Yes, they do like it because they usually go out when schools are closing. So they use these songs to like groove and everything and have fun.
The neighbours told me that despite the noise from the home studio, they don't mind it at all.
Very good, very, very good men. It has been a pleasure living with these men. We don't sleep, but it's enjoyable.
Although I'm back here in Melbourne, there are artists back in Durban are indeed shaping a global sound. So behind those heavy bass lines you heard does indeed lay a tougher reality. I've been Archibald McGill and you're watching RMIT Newsline on Channel 31.
It's going to happen. It's supposed to happen.
So Naya, tell us, is there anything else that's grabbed your attention in the news over the past couple of weeks?
Well, I'm glad you asked. My favourite thing I've seen, and it was just this morning that it was broadcast, that a 27-year-old wheel of Parmesan was discovered in Italy. It's been well cared for, but it weighs approximately 36 kilograms and is worth more than 20,000 euros, which is about 35,000 Australian dollars.
Are we talking Parmesan as in cheese?
Cheese, yeah.
Okay.
We're talking the biggest piece of cheese I've seen in my life. And
have
they had to open it.
They did,
They opened it, it was kind of pink, and apparently it could go on for another 5 or so years.
Wow.
Would you eat it?
I wouldn't be tasting anything, especially cheese that's been opened and preserved for that long. No.
Yeah, really bitey.
Yes,
I'm sure it must be.
Not my cup of tea. Maybe on a bit of pasta, but no. I don't think so.
No, I don't think that's for me.
Well, there we go. Always something strange and weird happening around the world today. And that's the wrap up for our first part of Newsline this afternoon.
We'll be back at 4:30 with another hour of local stories and news. Stay with us.